Hi, everyone, and happy Easter. I hope you had a wonderful celebration of this most wonderful time. I know for me personally, I love the whole Lent Easter season. I just love the whole ritual. I love the whole celebration. I love the whole worship. As for me, it's just, this is it. Well, I guess it's supposed to be, right? This is it. This is the most important time of the liturgical year for all of us. So I had a wonderful time with my family, and I hope you did too. And I was really blessed in that those of my grandchildren, well, a lot of my all of us, all the kids, we all went to mass together. I usually do the Easter vigil, but I was waiting for some kids to come in from Rhode Island, so I did not. We all went on Easter morning, and it was just such a gift to be able to be with each and every one of them. And even those that I teach, I had taught the week before, we were talking about the Easter candle. And during the homily, the pastor mentioned it and showed the Easter candle. And they're like smiling, thumbs up, Grandma, we did this. So that was really cool. And it was just a lovely celebration. So I'm hoping for you that you had the same. So yesterday I met with them and we did a lesson. And this was the part 2 of the week. If you noticed, these last for April 9th and April 16th, there are 2 lessons combined, or 2 gospels, I should say, combined into one handout. So I did want to we went over the Easter story a little bit, and again, who was there. And even before we did that, I found this really nice Easter prayer, and we prayed it together. And at the end of the day, it's really about your thanking God for the relationship you have with God and with Jesus. And that stood out for them. So that's nice. I'm glad they got that point. And that's what really we're about anyway, right? We're talking about our relationship with God. So I asked them about like who was there at Easter, what happened, just to let them give me a recap, because we had done a lot of that the last meeting, and which they did. And I asked, what does Easter mean to you? And they talked about Jesus, and they talked about even the other piece of it, the tradition that the family has. Talked about Easter egg hunt that came in part of it, but what Easter meant to them is that, Jesus dying on the cross for this year, as they became a little older, really had great significance for them. And they're starting to question it, but think about it. Think about that this is what Jesus did. And what does that really mean for them personally? If you remember when Lent started, that's 6 weeks ago, I had asked them to write on paper the things that they thought that they needed to improve on, either their faults or if they felt they did something wrong, to write it on a piece of paper. Things during Lent they should become more aware of. But I also told them to write down the good things that they've done, the thoughtful things. Where were they more compassionate? And write them all down. So yesterday was our day. Easter's done. Lent is done. Let's discuss it. So they had their little sheets. And I said, I don't need to see them. You had them, they're yours. But what I want you to do is everywhere you saw or you wrote down that you had a flaw, that you did something wrong, that you can improve, I want you to cross it out. So they crossed it out. And I said, you have another list of things there included, things that you did that were good, that you had either helped someone or something that was positive. And I want you to put a star for each one of those. And they did. I said, look at your papers. How many more do you have? You have more stars or you have more crossing out? And they said, oh, they both said, we have more stars. And I said, that's great. I said, so look at you. You still need to work on those things that you feel you haven't, been so great with. But look at you. You're good. You're doing good things. Really concentrate on that. And look at that every once in a while. Certainly be free to ask for forgiveness. Certainly feel free to acknowledge when you've done something wrong. But I thought that really made an impression on them. I said, see, you're basically really good. And again, not to dismiss that we can, make messes and do things that aren't so great all the time, but definitely they got to see it on paper that, you are a good person. I said, hold on to that. because it's something you should keep, in think about. The purpose of that is to do exactly what I did, to help them see their own goodness, but also to start them into getting to a place that they might want to journal someday. I think journaling is a great way to either pray or to talk to God or figure things out, deal with your emotions. And I think that writing piece, and to see it and to see the changes, can have a great impact. So I was very pleased with that. They were very pleased with that. So it was a nice little exercise that we did. And then we got into the post-resurrection, and this coming Sunday's gospel, which is about Thomas, who is doubting the presence of God. This was great. This was a great thing to talk about, because one of them just asked me a few weeks ago, Grandma, what if we're doing all of this and there really isn't a God? And I said, whoa, I said, well, and I went into my reasons why I thought there was a God. And I just also wanted to tell her that it's okay to have that question. I think we all need to have that question at times in our life, if we're going to be really honest and authentic about it. So to hear Thomas, who had seen everything that Jesus had done, who saw the miracles and saw his kindness and his compassion, still doubted, made them feel, I think, a little more, I'm okay, and look at, the great things that we can still do in spite of it. The whole idea of, and for me, well, and for them, I think the idea of the doubting piece, again, can be very real, and to be able to believe in something you haven't seen. And the gospel itself says that, Jesus says it. Blessed are those who have not seen and believe. And I said, that's the big difference there. It's something to be thought about and something to be said. I was thinking about this for them, and they're, like I said, they're 11 years old. So they're kind of like, starting to come to terms with Jesus in a different light. They're maturing. But I thought for little children, when you're teaching this, it might even be easier, because they're still believing in things they don't see. They believe in Santa Claus, they don't see. They believe in the tooth fairy, they don't see. They believe in the Easter Bunny, they don't see. So in some way, it might be a little easier to present that concept of believing in something we don't see. But as they get older, and even as they get older, that becomes a serious question for many of them. I see that in my older grandchildren. Those are in high school, even in college. How do I believe? Grandma, what makes you believe? So that was a side discussion on Easter Sunday. I said, we can't even get away with a holiday without talking about it, but that's wonderful. It really is wonderful. And why? And then other adults got into the conversation. So, just to be open with that, and to be open because you do serve as a model. If you're taking on this role of helping them form in their faith, everyone kind of looks at you and says, okay, so what do you think? And it's just really, I like the way that's happening. And I think for the family, it's a good thing. And I think it's a good opportunity for that to happen. So we talked about, again, this gospel. And for me and for them, I wanted to emphasize to them the last paragraph of John's gospel in this coming Sunday's passage. And what does it say? And they read it. I had them read it and reread it. And it talks about why this gospel was written. And I had them read it. I said, why was it written? It was to show that Jesus was the Messiah and all these things are true. And I said, so the writer of the gospel, I think, wanted to cement the fact that, yes, we may doubt at times, but guess what? This is what I saw. This is what we believe. And so I had them repeat it. So that was something that I said, and I went through. Okay, always take a moment to go back to things that you've taught, so they can make more connections. So I'm like, okay, so this gospel is different from Matthew and Luke and Mark. And I said, where did Matthew and Luke get their information from? The first gospel, which was whose? They said, Mark. I said, of course. Who did Matthew write for? He wrote for the Jewish audience. Who did Luke write for? For the poor people. Okay, what does John write? Very different. I introduced the word synoptic, the synoptic gospels, but John is different. What is John trying to tell us? That Jesus was the Messiah. So we emphasize that. And then I wanted to get into the Acts of the Apostles because, as you know, during the Easter season, the first reading instead of from the Old Testament is from the Acts of the Apostles. And I think the Acts of the Apostles I love the Acts of the Apostles. So much happens. So I had them read in their Bible. They have a beginning of introduction of what the Acts of the Apostles are about and just the important things that happen. The ascension of Jesus, Pentecost, the conversion of Paul, lots happening in this, the new communities, the first council at Jerusalem, lots of big deal things are happening in the early church. How does the church look? You read the second chapter of Acts. What did that mean? The teaching and this worshiping and coming together as community. So I wanted them to get a handle on that a little bit. And for not this coming lesson, for this Sunday, I'm going to text them and say, just read the Acts, the first reading again, just so that you're along with the gospel, you're familiar with it. So I did show a video. I found a video of Jesus and with his encounter with Thomas in the upper room. And that kind of sunk in for them. That seems to kind of pull it together for them. And at the end, we did a prayer, and the prayer with a song. It wasn't so much a prayer as it was a song, a reflection. And the title of it was called He Did by Lane Garner. And I found it, I came across it. And what it does, it kind of takes you through scenarios of what Jesus did throughout his ministry. And then Thomas is just doubting, still doubting. I mean, it's almost like, how could you not believe after what you've been through with him? But isn't that so human? And Thomas is being very honest and very human. And then eventually he says, my Lord and my God, yes, I do believe. So that was good. They enjoyed that. It was a good lesson. I thought they're getting older, and it's getting interesting to see how they grow, and they're open to all of that growth. So that was what happened this week. It's a lot happening. There's a lot happening in terms of the church, in terms of what our history is. And it's the most dramatic, the most miraculous, the most everything. This is why we're here, because of the resurrection. So it was a big deal of a week, and it was great. Next week, I will not be with you. I will be traveling. And then after that, I think we have 2 more lessons, and the year comes to a close, at least in this way. Hopefully it doesn't come to a full close in terms of the summer, because God doesn't take a vacation, right? That's what I always tell the kids. So have a good week. Enjoy the readings this coming Sunday, and come to terms, look at yourself. And we all have to look at ourselves and say, oh, yeah, I've had my doubts too. And it's interesting because I just saw a documentary this week on Mother Teresa and how I think they said 50 years of wondering where God was, that she had felt abandoned by God, and yet she still went on to serve God in the way she did, in such marvelous ways. So if St. Teresa can doubt sometimes, I think we can too, which is very human. And but to know that God is still with us, to hang on to that all the time. Have a good week, everyone. Thank you. And again, happy Easter.